Well, what that's really indicating are threats that are potentially in motion and by way of either direct server to server contact, server to distribution environment, regardless of their location on the globe. These threats in real time are essentially being tracked and then graphically represented as this tracking data shows on the global map. And then over to the left, you see directly, and it can be slowed down for speed so you can get a sense of each one, but literally
That's
thousands
nice.
per hour are tracking into that environment. And this, let me just say that overall, what I found, and the reason why I have more than one resource, is that depending on which company, I would get a portion of a view, and some of that view would overlap with another company's view. And where it overlaps, it kind of started to represent more of a mosaic of the big picture. And although I don't have the know-how to create an entirely connected view of all of those things layered on top of each other in one tab, I felt that if I had those three tabs in red up at the top, that I would get a very significant amount of real-time outage information. And by outage, a threat typically can lead to an outage. It might be a very insignificant amount of downtime from a user's perspective, or it can be seconds or minutes or hours of downtime. So it kind of depends on the intensity of the threat and the amount of threat work that has been going on by the bad guys, so to speak. You're seeing that in that there's a view of it that is basically tracing from a source to a destination.
Right.
And so that's what you're starting to see in that global map. And that's just representing what that rotating screen is over to the right. And then the quantitative view of outages per unit time is what is up in the upper left-hand corner.
And then over on the right of that map, it says top targeted countries, which is really cool. So interestingly, 1 was Mongolia, 2 was Georgia, then Nepal, Indonesia, and Guatemala. So top targeted industries, for those of you who are interested: education, government, and healthcare. And then it says top malware types: adware, backdoor, and phishing. So what a really useful graphic that I did, even just looking at it without you. And this is why I'm so glad I invited you on, is I didn't even get the breadth of what I was looking at. And I'm just noticing now on the map too, the red stands for malware, purple stands for phishing, and yellow is exploiting. I don't know exactly what exploiting means.
So typically an exploit virus is something that launches something else. And malware is probably at a colorful view of red is probably most frequent and probably most infective at a user level, so an individual laptop or computer. But an exploit virus can actually be more harmful at a server or at a distribution level of many computers inside of a domain, because then it can attenuate behavior of the system. It can change the behavior of a system, sometimes without the users really knowing it or network admins knowing it until it's too late, like, for example, with ransomware and such.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so interesting. It doesn't tell me where in the United States this central place keeps spitting out stuff, but I just saw one from Portland, Oregon, and another one from Arizona somewhere. But it is fascinating. And I'll tell you, the reason I kind of latched onto your binder with this is in February, when Russia invaded Ukraine, I was just trying to see what kind of activity, and there was a lot going on in Central Europe there on this dashboard.